Hi, everyone. This is Hal Krosman with Screenwriting U, and today we're going to be talking about The Sixth Sense as it relates to being a profound movie. Now, let me back up. You guys may remember the first time you saw this movie. I don't know about you, but when I saw it, I thought, oh my God, two things. One is it scared the daylights out of me. But the second was, wow, that was an amazing twist at the end. Right. And it's like, I think it's really easy to look at that as the primary thing that makes this movie great. I'm going to tell you this evening, I think there are some other things that make this movie great, and it's worth watching and worth considering from those perspectives. Let me show you what we're going to do today. First, we are going to be, excuse me, we're going to be talking about what makes this movie great, because I think the more you understand what makes any movie great, the more you can emulate that and be able to use it in your own writing. Now, second, just a second here. Second, we'll be looking at the profound model itself and what makes something profound. What are the steps? What are the keys that go into it? And so that you can use that yourself. Third, I'll do an analysis of Malcolm's transformation. Most of the time when people talk about this movie, you're talking about Cole making this transformation, and then suddenly there's this big twist at the end. But after we started analyzing these, we looked and we said, wait a minute, really what we've got going on here is a couple of different profound stories being told at the same time. And then that brings us at the end, we'll talk about the upcoming class, the profound screenplay, how to write scripts that are truly profound, that have a deep impact on your audiences, and cause people to want to see them over and over and over again. So let's jump into this. What makes this movie great? Now, again, let's go to the most obvious thing. It has one of the most famous twists in movie history. And that really does make a big difference. But that twist wouldn't have worked if it would have just been a trick. And that's one of the big things. It also has dual transformational stories. So it has two stories that are transformational. One that we are completely aware of as we're watching it, right? A therapist is helping a kid who has some psychological issues. And then a transformational story that we aren't aware of pretty much until the very end, that actually the kid is helping him pass over. It has a deep, profound story built into it. And I'm going to say, if you take the profound story out of this movie, probably it may not have ever been something that would have attracted a major star. It probably wouldn't have gone really anywhere. And this is one of the keys to being able to write in a way that touches audiences deeply, causes them to wonder and worry on a level way below the surface, and has them remember that story from then on. And then it did one other thing. This is something else that makes this movie great. It turned an unknown writer / director into a megastar. Now, let me just tell you what I'm talking about. And you already know this, but the movie was written by M. Night Shyamalan. And up until that point, M. Night had done two movies, both of which had lost money. And I saw an interview at one point, and here's what he said. He said he had written 9 drafts of this script, The Sixth Sense, and as of draft 9, it did not have that twist at the end. It did not have Malcolm being dead the whole time. It was a story about a therapist who was helping a kid who sees dead people. And by the end of it, the kid got to where, you know what, he could deal with it. He could live with the dead people. He was all right. And he said he knew he had a well-written script, but he didn't believe that it could sell. He thought it was just a B-level horror movie. So he decided at that point he needed to do something. And that was when he did a creative process and he came up with that one breakthrough. Oh my God, Malcolm's been dead the whole time. And that changed his whole life. So here's the first change. First change was it got this guy right here, Bruce Willis, to sign on to this movie. Here's the second change. Got him a budget of $40 million, which was like pretty strong, because if you didn't put a star in that movie could have been made on a low budget. That's could have been something that was done for $1 to $5 million. Really, it's possible. But adding Bruce Willis to it changes it, takes the movie up to a much higher level. It gives it much more press and media and, you know, name recognition and all of those kinds of things. And so this movie ended up doing $673 million at the box office. Now, imagine that this happened for you. Wouldn't that be amazing? And that's really what we want. That's the objective of everything we do. We want that to happen for you. But I want to show you what it did for M. Night. Because M. Night went from a guy who had lost money on his first two movies, and they were both low budget movies, but they both lost money. He went from that to not only having this success, but after writing The Sixth Sense, his career income or overall money that was made was $3.3 billion. That's pretty wild, don't you think? And that all started with this. Now, let me say one other thing. Whether you're an M. Night fan or not, here's the other thing. I saw another interview with him, and I've interviewed a lot of people in this industry, but I haven't interviewed him. But I saw another interview where he said, I mostly write B movies with A-list talent. This one wasn't a B movie. This was one of his A movies. A lot of the movies he did after that were what we would call just kind of B-list horror movies. And then he had some stars in them and they became fairly big. And plus his name has become something that attracts people. But this movie, this might have been the best script he ever wrote. I haven't seen one of the others that I thought hit the level of this. So there's a reason. There's something about it that makes it that successful and made it something that people would remember forever. So let's talk about how that works. And this is the model we're using. It's the profound model. It's how do you create something profound in your screenplays? And you can think of it in a bunch of different ways, but let me say this. You could think of profound as just depth, right? It's like one of the most common notes producers give is this script needs more depth. And so you could think of it that way. You could think of it as, what if, and let's go all the way to the other end, what if I, as a writer, could change people's lives? Now, I know that's a huge jump, but the more profound your story, the more likely things like that happen. And I'm going to jump into this in just a second, but just think back right now. Have there been any movies that you would say made some kind of change for you, that shifted things, that had you believe in yourself in a different way or try new things, or were the one thing that caused you to go from being nervous and afraid to going, I'm going to go for it in my life, right? If you've experienced that with movies before, you've probably experienced this model in some way. So let's just go through it here. And by the way, we started out in the beginning, we made it an envelope for the diagram, because at that time we were thinking it was all about the profound message kind of thing. We saw it in a whole different light by the time we were done developing it. But let's start out. There's 11 different steps to this. So the first one, right in the middle, instead of saying, what's the message, which is what we thought in the beginning, If you're really trying to create a profound movie, start with what's the change? What's the change you're trying to cause? Because if you know what that change is, then you can build it all the way across this, right? If the change is, let's say you want people to walk out and say yes to life and take the risk they've always been afraid of, right? It's like, okay, then you're going to put your characters through that journey in a way that is profound, a way that has a real impact on them. For this particular movie, what would I say the change is? I'd say this movie is about being okay with the transitions in your life, right? We've got two characters who are going through a transition. One of the characters is deeply afraid because there's all these ghosts around him. There's these dead people around him, and he needs to make a transition to being somebody who is comfortable in that situation and actually can contribute. The other character has this change that just occurred to him, and he hasn't been able to accept it yet. And he needs to make a transition to the other side, right? So that's what I would say the change of this movie is. Then number two, up here, top left, you need an opening that connects with us, that has the audience becoming, go with that character. So the opening of The Sixth Sense, we meet Malcolm. He just got this award. So it's like, okay, he's likable. He's admired by his wife. He's admired by the people at his job. He's admired by the mayor, right? He's a likable guy. He also, there's this thing that happens. He steps into his bedroom and finds out that there's this guy in the bathroom and he doesn't know what's going on. So we get intrigued by him at that point. And then a third thing happens, he gets shot by the guy. And at that point, we feel tremendous empathy, right? So we've connected with him, we're worried about him, and we're going to go on this journey with him. Now that takes us all the way over to the top right, which is the profound ending. And I would say this movie has a profound ending. We get to the end, and the first time you ever saw it, my guess is you were very likely surprised, because M. Night actually did a really good job of making the main story that we were watching, how does this therapist help this kid, making that story something that we were deeply engaged in, and actually scaring us enough times along the way that we kind of forgot that Malcolm was in his own world dealing with his changes. But we get to the end and suddenly we find out that actually, while Malcolm has thought he's helping this kid, the kid is actually helping him pass over because he's been dead the whole time. That was a profound ending, right? Then number 4, across the top here. This is our transformational journey. Now, most people think of a transformational journey mainly as a character arc. And yes, both of these characters have arcs, but it's actually a lot more than that. And you're going to see as we add in some things here, especially when we get right here and over here. Number 8, number 7 are big parts of the transformational journey that make it so much deeper. But let's keep going here. Bottom left-hand corner, number 5 here, the transformable character. You need a character that is going to change. And in most movies, that's going to be one character. In some movies, like, let's see, if you're looking at The Matrix, for instance, the transformable character is Neo, and he's going to go through this major change. If you look at the Dead Poets Society, it's the boys, and they're going to go through a big change. If you watch the movie like Gandhi, it's most of India that is going through the change. So, you're looking who's going to be your transformable character. And in this movie, by the way, let me go to the second one and then I'll tell you these two. Number 6, right-hand side, bottom. That's your change agent. And notice this, I'm not doing protagonist and antagonist here, because sometimes the transformable character in some movies is the antagonist. Sometimes the antagonist is the change agent. Sometimes in some movies, the change agent might be someone else, like Morpheus isn't the antagonist of the Matrix, but he is the change agent, right? So hopefully that makes sense to you. But in this movie, I'm going to say both characters played both roles, right? If you look at it, like if we look at it from the first transformational journey, that would be Cole's transformational journey. Cole is the transformable character, and Malcolm is the change agent for Cole, right? And notice this, the transformable characters on the left-hand side, that means they're just starting at the beginning of the journey. The change agent is all the way to the right-hand side. They've already been through this journey before. Malcolm has been through this journey. It's just he failed with the last client that he went through the journey with. That was the guy that shot him. So he knows it. Now, the other transformational journey, Malcolm is the transformable character. He doesn't know he's dead. He doesn't know he's a ghost. And the change agent is Cole. Cole, you know, this kid who sees dead people, he's already seen enough dead people. He knows that Malcolm is dead from the opening scene that they're in together. Remember, every time Cole sees somebody, one of the things he sees is the part that caused them to die, right? He sees them with a bullet hole in the back of their head. He sees them, you know, with still hanging, stuff like that. So when he first sees Malcolm across the street, Malcolm's still got that bullet wound, and Cole knows it. So Cole is the change agent who helps Malcolm through his journey. And that's part of what we'll be talking about a little bit later. Then there's this gradient of change. This goes from the bottom left-hand corner to the top right-hand corner. And this is part of the transformational journey. A lot of times I'll see people will have scripts where they have a hero in there who wasn't a hero, it was just an average person. And they'll go all the way across the script. This person's average, 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 average. And then in the final scene or the climax, that person will suddenly step up and save the day. The problem with that, if you're trying to cause change for an audience, is that they don't get a chance to experience that gradient of change, those stair steps that ultimately get us to that change, right? Instead, you've got a character that's 0, 0, 0, 0, boom, he's 100. That doesn't cause an audience to change. That's one big moment. But if you want to do this well, if you want to really have the audience go with this transformable character on their journey, consider creating a gradient of change. And that gradient, there's a whole bunch of different things it could be, but essentially it's a series of steps. I'll take you through Malcolm's in just a little bit here. Let's go here. Number 8, you challenge the old ways and you give profound moments for the new ways. This is also part of the transformational journey. Challenge the old ways, has them say, wow, the way I've always done it doesn't work anymore. I've got to do something different. Giving profound moments for the new ways has them have these amazing experiences where they go, oh my God, I guess I can do this. Or, oh my God, this new thing works, right? And because they're having those profound moments and you've challenged the old ways, it has a tendency to lock in this new change. Now let's go to number 9, top or the middle left-hand corner here. You need entertainment. And I'm saying this because sometimes people will create something that'll be like, you know, they are like, essentially it's like a documentary. And you'll look at it and it'll go, wow, we've got an amazing character and they're going on this journey. And yes, they're changing, but it's more like I'm listening to a historical documentary. You need entertainment from the very beginning, right? It's like every step of the way, you need some kind of entertainment. And remember, entertainment is emotional. So a lot of times what this is about is creating that emotional roller coaster for the character and creating it for the audience, right? It's like you are creating those emotional moments, those moments that surprise us, those moments that shock us, those moments where we're worried or we're feeling suspense or those kinds of things. And this, I think this movie did a great job of that. It did it from a character perspective, right? It's like right at the point at which the opening scene where Malcolm has his best success, he's been acknowledged by the mayor, everything's wonderful. He also then has the absolute shocking contrast of that, where we go the exact opposite. And now he has his biggest failure and the biggest trauma of his life happen in that same scene, right? That's a roller coaster. Let's go all the way to the right-hand side, number 10. And now we have insights. And insights means you're looking beneath the surface. It means you are finding something deeper. If you look at your script right now and you don't have some kind of serious insights, I would say, as in you're not presenting anything that's new and insightful to an audience, I would say you want to spend some time, walk around in that script and look deeper and see what else you can find. What insights can you give to that audience that will make change for them? And I think there were a bunch of different insights built into this movie. And we'll talk about those as we go. Number 11, finally, at the very bottom, everything comes together to deliver a profound truth, you know? And you could look at this movie in a bunch of different ways and see different kinds of what we might call something profound. I think it was profound in multiple ways. I've probably seen this movie 10 times. The first two was because, it was a pretty good horror movie with an interesting kind of character story. But once I realized what was under that surface, what they did beneath the surface, I was like, wow. So let's now just take this a step further. I want you to see Malcolm's transformation. And this is, when we looked at it through the profound model, was when we actually found this and we saw it. Up until that point, I had argued with a bunch of different people who would say, well, it just had this trick ending. And I'm like, no, it's actually not a trick ending. If it was done without Malcolm having some kind of journey there, then I'd say, yes, it was a trick ending. If it was done without M. Night going back and rewriting it, it's like he went back and added in the whole thing at the very beginning of the guy basically committing suicide and shooting Malcolm. He added in a bunch of different scenes that set it up so that we experienced this story in a different way, so that when the wife is at dinner, there's not a placemat set for him. And she doesn't seem to listen to him. And finally, at the right moment, she gets up and walks out. But the truth is she never even knew he was there, right? There were other things that were built in that would make it something that wasn't a trick ending. Like, for instance, the mother never talked with him. She talked with Cole in front of him, but she never talked with him. There are about 10 of those that he built in where it's like, okay, it's legitimate that Malcolm was a ghost, right? That he was one of those dead people. I saw it that way the third or fourth time I watched it. But when we looked at the profound model, that's when I saw this. So let me walk you through Malcolm's transformation. Your first quandary, if you were writing something like this, is how do you build in the transformation of Malcolm without letting the letting on that this story is really about him, right? Because when an audience goes to see this, if you tell them up front, this story is the transformation of Malcolm, they won't get that big twist at the end. They'll be thinking the whole time, something's going on with Malcolm. What is it? So this is about how do you keep essentially Malcolm's transformational story under the surface. So let's walk through it. First part, Malcolm experiences a tragedy. Vincent, right, his patient, his former patient, in the bathroom naked, he blames Malcolm and he shoots him. Now, this causes a change in Malcolm's life. And just from watching it normally, you would automatically say there was a change. Malcolm had this tragedy that was first a client that blamed him, but also then shot him, right? So it's a tragedy no matter how you go. At that point, we think Malcolm is still alive. We think he made it. And when we see him in the next scene, right, which is this scene right here, he has a new patient. Now, by the way, at this point, he's been isolated, unable to communicate with his wife. He's been walking around confused. He's finally got this new patient, and he's sitting across the street as Cole comes out to get ready, I guess, to go to school in the morning. And at that point, we're looking at Malcolm, who is looking at his case file. So we're thinking, of course, Malcolm lived. Of course, everything's fine. He's just finally recovered and he's back to work kind of thing, right? But that's not really what's going on. But here's what this is. It's still a change for him, right? So if you think of Malcolm as a live person, he's got to change because he has this new patient, right? It gives him a problem to solve. This is something that's normal for him. It gives him a purpose. If you think of him as somebody who's not alive, now that we know what happened with him, he still needs those, but now he's got a different kind of purpose. He is really solving the big tragedy that put him where he is. Let's go to the third thing. Malcolm realizes that Cole and Vincent are similar. So this is the restaurant scene. He tells his wife how similar they are, right? This is the actual dialogue. And he ends by saying, I feel like I'm being given a second chance and I don't want it to slip away. Now, this is really important because this is part of the change. This causes another change. But again, it's part of his transformational journey. The change that just happened is Malcolm decided that solving this case will resolve the trauma of the Vincent tragedy. And that's important because what it means is Malcolm now has a metaphor, something outside of himself that he can focus on. And if he can fix that, it fixes this, right? So it has set it up. He's been given a second chance. It has set it up. He doesn't want it to slip away. He's going to solve this. So Malcolm presents a solution. And this is at the church. But let me just show you the solution. He knows that this kid sees dead people. He says, what do you think these ghosts want when they talk with you? Right? And Cole answers, just help. Okay. So Malcolm says, that's right, they just want help, even the scary ones. And I think I might know a way to make them go away. Cole wants to know, and Malcolm says, listen to them. Now, there is a change that just got made for Malcolm, right? For Malcolm, he just helped the kid, right? So it's a good thing for him. For Cole, in the next scene, Cole helps a girl. Her stepmother has poisoned her and is now poisoning her little sister, right? So they just put Malcolm's solution into action and it made a difference for Cole. That also makes a difference for Malcolm. he's starting to see success in this story. He's starting to see a change. He's starting to see that he can impact people again, right? So he's had this success, and Cole, this is like 2/3 the way through when I'm talking about this. Cole is now no longer afraid of dead people. He's starting to fit in socially, right? He's much happier. They have a whole conversation about it. The change for Malcolm, he's actually solved the trauma that was unsolvable in his life, right? So this finally gives him that moment where he can start to be at peace. And the last conversation that him and Cole have, he says, I don't know how to say goodbye. And Cole says, well, let's just pretend like we're going to see each other again. But Cole is using Malcolm's solution to try to help this dead person that's in front of him. So Cole then has given Malcolm a solution to communicate with his wife, which I think was actually pretty interesting here. He suggests that Malcolm talk with Anna while she's asleep. So Malcolm finds his wife asleep in the chair, watching their wedding video. So he tries Cole's idea, right? Anna says, I miss you. She's sleeping. Malcolm says, I miss you too. She says, why did you leave me? And he says, I didn't leave you. So he still doesn't know at this point, but there is a change for him for the first time he and his wife are communicating now. And that makes a difference, which now brings us to the next part. Malcolm's wedding ring drops from Anna's hand. And Malcolm finally puts this together. And this causes another change. He realizes that he's one of the dead people that Cole has been seeing, right? His life ended in the opening scene. So at that point, he can finally let go of Anna. So he shares his feelings with her, right? He tells her he thinks he can go now. He ends by saying that he loves her and that she can go to sleep. Everything's going to be different in the morning. And she says, good night, Malcolm. And at that point, we have the final change for Malcolm. He's come to peace with his life and his death, and he can move on now that Anna's okay, right? So what we're talking about here, what we're walking through, is essentially the transformational story beneath the transformational story. It's one of the reasons why I've always told people, no, I don't think this one's a trick ending. It's not just that it was set up by having us, not see Malcolm talking with anybody but Cole. All of those kinds of things, yeah, those are cool setups that were built in. But this transformational journey, this second transformational journey, I think is a big part of what made this something that really was amazing and really did have a chance of becoming one of the greatest movies of all time. So what does a profound story do? Because this is the other part that a lot of times people aren't aware of. A profound story engages your audience, right? It engages them on much, much deeper levels. It has them connect with the characters and go on that journey. It delivers tremendous depth. If you have a producer who is asking you to build more depth into your screenplay, or if you get coverage or feedback and people are saying it doesn't have enough depth, this is the way to deal with it. I remember 15 years ago, I had a producer say the script needed more depth, and I was like, great, what is it that you'd like to see? And he couldn't define it. He just kept saying it needs more depth. This is the part that defines it, right? So let's continue. It also shows you as a pro, being able to write profound stories. That causes any reader to be deeply engaged, to be more interested, it causes the story to stick with them. And if you do this well enough, it can change people's lives. You know, if you think about the movies that have changed your life, or the movies that have caused a shift for you, very likely they were profound stories. The other thing that a lot of people don't know is profound movies have a tendency to get watched over and over and over again. Many of the movies that you've seen 5, 10, 15 times, if you look at them, they have profound stories in them. And you just wanted to keep going on that journey over and over because it meant something to you. And that's the way it's been with me. It's the same kind of thing. So how do you achieve this? And there are certain ways to do it. It took us almost 6 months with a development team to figure it out and to design something that really could cause people to have a profound impact with their scripts and with their movies and TV shows. So stay with me for about 10 minutes. Let me just walk you through this real fast. This is the upcoming class, the Profound Screenplay. It is a specific model for how to write stories that have a tremendous impact on audiences. This is a 30-day class, and I'll just walk you through the lessons real fast. It'll give you a chance to not only see how the model works, but also to see other parts that you can apply to your own scripts right now. First question is, what is profound about this story? And this is important. If you don't know what's profound about your story, if you haven't figured that out, probably an audience isn't going to experience it. So it's the first part. Whether you're coming in with a new idea or bringing in a script that you want to give tremendous depth, it starts by discovering what's profound and how can you build that into your screenplay. Then it's about defining the change. What's the change the characters are going to go through, and the change you want the audience to go through, and what's the entertaining story that will be the vehicle for that change. Both of these need to be present. If you just define the change, a lot of times, again, it becomes a documentary. If you only go to the entertaining story, a lot of times it doesn't end up having the depth that you need. Put the two together and you've got something amazing. Day 3, then it's about creating the transformational journeys. And you might have a transformational journey that is entirely focused around one lead character, or it might be around multiple characters. It just depends. But we aren't just looking to do a character arc here. We're looking to build something truly transformational for the audience. Day 4, now you look at who is going to be your change agent, who's going to be your transformable character. I'm going to give you 4 qualities that go with each one of these, that as long as you build in all 4, you've got something amazing. Leave out 2 on each one of them, and you've got average characters. So it's very, very important. Day 5 is now the gradient of change. And we're going to give you 3 different ways to build gradients of change, that stair step of understanding, that shift that people go through, so that you can make sure that your story is something that really does cause a change. On day 6, now we're looking at transformational structure. What is the structure that naturally fits with a transformational story? Day 7, how do you have the audience connect with your lead characters so they'll naturally follow you through this journey? Day 8, of course, leaving us with a profound ending. If this movie didn't have the profound ending it had, probably we wouldn't have at least some of the impact. So very important. Day 9, top right-hand side. And let me just go through 4 of these because they're all part of the same thing. Day 9, 10, 11, and 12 is something you won't see anyplace else. We had two psychiatrists, 1 therapist who were in our development team. And I told them up front, I said, I want to be able to create a model that can change people's lives and shift their belief systems. All 3 of them told me that wasn't possible. We spent 6 months deciding and figuring out how to make that happen. So these 4 lessons, shifting belief changes, challenging beliefs, discovering profound moments and writing profound moments, these are the ones that actually cause the internal change. And by the time we were done, all three of our psychiatrists and psychotherapists, all three of them said, yes, this is absolutely possible. They didn't think it in the beginning. By the end, they actually had a transformation and they were like blown away by it. Day 13 is entertaining scenes, because you need to make sure your scenes are entertaining. Day 14 now is how do you create dialogue that actually guides people's lives? Now, I'm sure you can think of some lines like this, but for instance, carpe diem, boys, seize the day, boys, seize the day, right? The carpe diem line that came from Dead Poets Society. After watching that movie, I was doing corporate training at that time. I probably saw 30 corporations that used that line. It was astounding how much that became part of our normal culture. Question is, how do you write things like that? So this whole lesson is just all about we give you a whole series of different profound lines and what it was that the writer did that caused those lines to be profound. And then finally, at that point, then you're going to elevate the whole thing and build it into either the screenplay you've already written when you're rewriting, or create a brand new screenplay out of it. But you'll have this entire profound map to be able to do so. Now, again, this is a 30-day program. This is designed so that first, any of these lessons can elevate the quality of your writing. All of them together can make it absolutely profound. You can use this in screenplays. You can use it in novels. You can use it when doing rewrites. You can use it when designing your next script. For those of you who would love to master this and to be part of it, let me give you a special that will make a big difference for you. The normal price on this one is $249 for the first 20 people. And you guys know how our system works. The first 20 people get in at one price, then it moves up, and then it moves up again. For the first 20 people, you can get in at $149. That'll save you $100. All you got to do is click this link and go through the sign-up process. It's easy. Just write this down if it's not clickable, bit.ly/profound class. And please capitalize the P and the C. That should get you in. Put that in your browser where you normally put in a web address, click return, and that'll start the process for you. Now, having said that, let me just say one other thing. We've had a lot of people go through this class and come out and say it changed how they wrote. It gave them significant depth. I think the biggest problem that most people are having is that it's easy to write that surface story, but how do you build depth under the surface that the audience perceives? And this will do it. Let me just tell you one more quick story. We had a writer go through this, and she sent me an email about a year later, and she said she was working with a producer on a horror script. The producer had paid her to write the horror script. She had written 4 drafts of it, and the producer just kept saying, it's just not where I want it. So she said he liked her horror. So she came back, looked at this class, and rewrote it through the profound model, took it back to him, and he was blown away by it. And he was like, oh my God, you're an incredible writer. She said she never told him what she did. She just stood back and she went, wow, what's missing is depth. And she built that in. We've also had people who have gone through this program who had never done well in contest and ended up winning first place in some of the big contests. We've had people who ended up making it into nickel using this. And we've had lots of people who have worked with producers using this particular model. I promise you, it'll make a significant difference for you. Again, to get the $100 off on it, just simply go to that link, bit.ly/profound class. I look forward to seeing you in the class, And other than that, this is Hal Krosman with Screenwriting U, wishing you guys the absolute best. I will talk with you another time. Bye-bye, everyone.